Okay, sweet. Thanks, Manon, and hi to all of you. And hopefully, more people will at some point like watch this video. And I will share with you just like a bit of a update. If I can share my screen. Can you see my screen
Yes, all
shared?
good.
Cool. Yeah, just a bit of an update and maybe a presentation as well, very short, of the Office for Climate Education, since there might interest, people watching that from the internet at some point. So basically, we are a association working on climate change education, mainly for what we call formal education. So basically, schools, and we are a kind of like a bridge between science and education. So we basically were created in 2018 in response of like a global concern for like a global evaluation, let's say, of the importance of education in reaching, well, like in responding to climate change, let's say. And basically, when we see the Paris Agreement and in the Article 12, it's stated that actually education or formal education is a key element of adaptation and mitigation for climate change, and therefore uh, we need to engage more and more the educational system around the world into proposing, let's say, quality climate change education to students. And this is also why we tried hard and finally went with an agreement with UNESCO, and we are a Center 2, like a Category 2 center, sorry, of the UNESCO. So basically, we're under the auspices of UNESCO, meaning that we like have some responsibilities regarding education around the world, and thanks to that, other like partners, we are lucky to engage with like different countries, different regions in the world for enhancing climate change education in those part of the world. And we always have a foot in science. So basically, now we're observing organization of the IPCC, but we're like a member of, I mean, we've got like scientific partners and historical partners with Sorbonne Université, IPSL, of course, but also like IRD, Météo Climat, Météo France, and also, of course, educational partners in France and in other countries. And the Green Education Partnership, I won't talk a lot about it, but it's basically the last, let's say, big project from UNESCO and different partners, including OCE, in terms of how we can enhance climate change, like greening in the school system through various approaches, such as developing curriculum, developing class resources, or engaging teachers into climate change education. And these are actually the missions of the OCE. So that's our team at the moment. So that's me, but I'm working with a team of five like class activity developers, let's say, what we call like médiateurs scientifiques in French, but like science officers, let's say in English. So they're like me developing resources and doing some teacher training. And so those missions are mainly targeting the teachers. So we work for them, with them, let's say, and and the final, let's say, public is definitely their students, but we don't work directly with students, and basically we try to level up as well the actions of the OC via presenting our activities to teachers, but also to teach trainers and educators who gonna spread out hopefully actions. And we focus mainly on primary and secondary schools. Middle school is kind of like the core aspect of our activities for different factors, and mainly because that's where climate change education and physics are starting to get into more complex rather than like primary schools, let's say, but also because in a lot of countries, education is mandatory until the end of middle school. So it's better to equip teachers until middle school to get the most response, let's say, to the general public. But it depends again on different countries. So we do that through the production of pedagogical resources, which is mainly what we do through the XAIDA project. I'm going to talk a lot about it. But also we do professional development, which is basically working with teachers during workshops, co-developing stuff with them, doing some piloting. But yeah, it's mainly like the format of a teacher training workshops that we say. And we've got like networks of practices in different places. And nowadays we do more and more like support to educational systems, working with different countries in developing their curricula to include more climate change in the curricula. So I was doing that in Zambia a few months ago. I've been asked as well in the UK to work on the next like English syllabus. And also something that is not written here, we do more and more research in educational science. Since a few months now, we've got like a research officer, and we've got a new like branch of our organization, target like a mainly working in evaluation of our practices and so on. So basically, the core aspect of developing resources and guiding principles of our action is to work on the scientific foundation, because we believe that quality climate change education is definitely triggered at first by the importance of science and how science work, and basically developing critical thinking with the students. So through interdisciplinarity, cooperation, but also active pedagogies, we hope to engage teachers and then students into that path. So we've got different ways of like governments working with the scientific and pedagogical committee to ensure the quality of our and the relevance of our resources in terms of their universality, but also in terms of how they can be adapted to local contexts. So that's the kind of products, let's say, we develop, which are all for free. They are all under like very open license, so they can be used as they want, and teachers can like change, they can reuse and diffuse them because it's like open source resources, let's say, and they're all like in English, French, Spanish for the most of them, and some of them are in German as well. They're all on our website. www.oc.global, and basically we can have distinction between production that are only for teachers, let's say, and that are more like for developing their like scientific culture or like pedagogical culture in the topics. So what we call like the professional development, and that is the main ones are like based on the IPCC reports, and basically we take an IPCC report and we do like a more accessible summary for teachers out from the summary for policymakers or for the AR6, for instance. But then you've got stuff online. I'm going to talk about it later. But also those two guys, the teachers' guidebooks. That's the main deliverable for the XAIDA project, and also teacher training protocols. So basically for the XAIDA, we've been under one of the work package leading to education practices around the missions of the XAIDA project, which are like definitely around extreme events and how intelligent artificial can help detection and attribution to extreme to climate change. So basically what we have done, we're still on process of doing, is to have products for teachers, for students, and also we hope for researchers in a way. So basically, we are like still under like producing a professional development protocol that can be used by any educators or teacher trainer to introduce the topic and also have like some key turn activities for the teachers. And the video clips that are a series of video clips I'm going to show you that are definitely can be used by teachers for their own like culture, but also for students. You can see them here. And also for researchers are like a matter of communication. And for students, we've got 7 actually class activities under a teacher handbook that will be released in November, hopefully. So to start with this professional development protocol, it's basically a protocol that is based on some experimentation, sorry, that we did during a summer university with teachers from another European project called ESM 2025, focusing on climate modeling. And basically, during this full week, we choose to illustrate how we can in the classroom work around adaptation and mitigation to climate change through the extreme events with a 4 hours, I think, yeah, an afternoon, let's say, teacher training workshop. So basically, we had around like 20 or 30 teachers that were all together with us in Toulouse for a week. And during this like afternoon, we went through two like role play games. One that you may recognize if you follow the XAIDA since the first day. One is based on the Green Crush, like the Green Cross, sorry, Climate Center activity, which is a very simple role play game around the probability of extremes according to climate change and how come as a community we can prepare with either adapt to climate change or develop your community, and it's a trade-off between what you can do. And basically like you can work here with teachers but also with students around how a group can be prepared to uncertainty and to work around like the math behind the probability of occurrence of an extreme events and how population can adapt to it as a trade-off with development per se. So it works quite well. And then we presented a board game developed by a colleague of Dim Kumu in Amsterdam University, and Anna Casati. She was developing uh, a very interesting board game, role play game, board game to have to. I'm going to present it a bit later on that because we are now adapting that for middle school students. So at first, this game was developed for like students at uni, and we developed like a simpler version. But basically, the group of like teacher or students have been asked to endorse different stakeholders of a community or a country or region that is based on a case study in a region of Brazil, actually, and they have to adapt to climate change extreme with I think it was like a flood and then drought. And it's just to explore the different interests and how you can agree on a common action and how this, the topic of governance is very hard to reach. So yeah, that's it. And then in every of our protocols and teacher training workshops, we have a long, along like a pedagogical and science discussion and background for the teachers. So that is an ongoing process. So we're finishing the writing of that now, and we're going to edit it, and they're going to be on our website by November or something. So it's one of the product, and then we've got the 8 video, which are called the Klein video. So we worked with a video editor and producer who's called Dorothée Adam. And we went to Leipzig, shooting the 8 videos with different colleagues from the XAIDA network. They are all online. I'm not sure if we got time, but maybe at the end we can watch one of them. But basically, you can find them there online on our YouTube channel. I'm not sure yet if they are like fully available as a public YouTube channel, but they will be surely soon, but they're all ready. And they're a very good tool, as I was saying, for disseminating science, to promote like some work of the XAIDA or for any researcher as an individual to showcase a bit what they do. It's quite fun, very short with animation and very clear. And what we do at the OC, we try to to include them in class activities. So it's been our like third or fourth collaboration with Dorothée Adam. with kind of the same layout each time, but we witnessed that in the previous project when we worked with her, quite often it's quite hard with students to work on those. So now we decided to have like a clear activity on that one. So basically, that's the last lesson of our lesson plan, which is how to communicate about extreme events in the changing climate. So basically, we use the videos as a tool for students to explore science communication. And basically, through the video, they learn about the topic, of course, but also they learn about how we can convey information, scientific information, into a short format, and hopefully having their own like skills, because we know now that like teenagers and especially middle school and high school students are very gifted with video making and on social media. So that's a quite interesting lesson about like exploring the science, but also science communication. But to come from the first lesson, sorry, just a short presentation of the plan of those 7 lessons. So basically, how it worked is like we took the topic of extreme events and detection attribution, and we did a conceptual scenario with like trying to get all of the concept and how these concepts can be, like linked to each other. And from that, we choose to have a focus on some aspects or trying to embrace the diversity of the aspects. And we started developing on our own activities, and then those activities been in a review process with our scientific and pedagogical community, but also with some scientists. And thanks to all of you guys who contributed to this review. And then we sent those like drafts to any teachers, and we had a few responses. It was quite hard to engage. Teachers are always hard, but it was definitely hard also because this topic is not very taught in French in the program, so in the syllabus. So teacher like only the very motivated teacher responded, and then they didn't have enough time to do it anyways. But so yeah, for now we're collecting the last few tests teachers are making, like doing in classrooms. And in May, we're gonna have like 3 days of like full work on having a look at the revisions and making changes and cutting down, because for now it's too long, because we're aiming for like a 80 or 90 pages document. So we need to trim down. But anyways, by September, we're gonna have like the PDF version, like the clean version. We're gonna work with a graphic designer, and from September to November, we're gonna like have a last like call for teachers to have a last call, like last look at it, and we're gonna take some of their advices to shape it like very perfectly and very neat for the teachers and to be delivered in November. So that's the rough plan. So basically what you can see here, we've got like 2 parts and a listen zero. Listen zero is kind of a prerequisite. It's a very, it can be simple, but also there's 2 levels, like a very simple and quite a harder one. It's just like an exploration of extreme events and a bit of a insight into attribution science. And then we've got part A, which is definitely dedicated to physics and math behind the extreme events, with like frequency of extreme events and changing climate, the physics of weather and climate extremes event in the changing climate, water cycle and the effect of climate change, so how we can link that to water cycle. And part B is more into society responses to extremes, with the adaptation for the Decade game inspired by the Climate Center. And natural disasters, which is this adaptation of Anna Constanti game around responses and role-play game, and this synthesis, which is more like communication and science. So the lesson zero, I won't show all of them, just like a few snapshots of 3 of them. Lesson zero is based on a multimedia animation that going to be on our website. I just got some screenshot of it, but you can see that it's basically a map which is very close to the map we can find on Carbon Brief website, which is a map of extreme events of the past few years. And the idea is just to use that as a description or like an introduction of extreme events, more of a cartography or like definition. So it just like as a learning objective for the students to analyze the diversity of extreme events, to have a clear definition of what extremes are, or diverse they can be, how diversely scattered in the world they are, and also being aware of attribution, not really going very deeply into the science of attribution because it's definitely not in any syllabi, if I'm correct, but at least to have like a understanding of the fact that they always have been extreme, but now with climate change due to human activities, they're more and more. But still, I mean, through with science, we can define if an extreme event is linked or not, attributed or not to climate change. And when you click on any of those like little pictograms, you can find some like information of that specific extreme with the news, like when it happened, what were the impacts on population and so on. The physics, what kind of physical if what happened in terms of like meteorological aspects, solutions like just a one or two like solutions specifically to that event or like more general to this kind of event, and projections again like is it like through IPCC reports and so on, is it going to happen more and less? And then there's a card game to explore those definitions and aspects, with more like fun, let's say. And then if we go on like one example of the second part, which is more linked with the physics, there is this one lesson A2, which is about the physics of weather and climate extreme events in a changing climate. And basically, it's a mix of experimental analogies and document analysis. And the idea is to cover the main extremes through different approaches, like definitely linked with inquiry-based pedagogies. So it's definitely not the beautiful layout we're going to have in a few months, but that's around those kind of aspects, with learning objectives about understanding the various physical aspects of extreme events, and also what we call graphicology, numeracy, so working around science, pure science, let's say, and this type of like system thinking, which is according to the Green Comp, a very important competencies to develop with the students. The last aspect about the link with our societies is this board game. Again, that will be reshaped by our graphic designer. But basically, as I was saying, it's a board game where students can play a role. So you got different persons, like the president of this region, the Ministry of Finance, and also like agricultural representatives, and they all have interests, but also all have types of information. So work here on the balance between expertise and interest of these, stakeholders. And you've got like a population representative and so on. So it's to, it's more like for like all the students, middle school or high school, and it's to embrace the complexity of human responses and society responses, especially in like modern societies to natural catastrophes, and to reveal the need of like consensus and so on. So it's a very interesting work. And so yeah, basically, and to finish on that, we gonna finish developing this professional development protocol, and hopefully having that being ready by November 2025. And I mean, the video clips are ready for diffusion. And finally, we are in that space now, like starting in a few weeks of getting by all of the feedbacks we had, and then all together discuss what do we do now with the tests and yeah. Obviously, we won't be able to respond to all of those comments that can be like contradictory between a classroom in this context and another one in the other context where they, I mean, it worked differently, but we're going to try to make something that is as close to as possible to the need of the teachers and the students. And yeah, that's about it for me. I don't know if we got any questions from the big assembly here. But yeah, thank you. That was fast.
Thank you, Simon.
Ah, thanks.
Uh, Please, if you have any question, write in the chat or uh, ask it directly to Simon.
Hi, Simon. Can I ask you a question? And probably you can guess what would be the youngest age group that your resources would be
Yeah, well,
targeted at?
well, the thing we have the intention to work with like upper middle school as a, and also we tested that mainly in like upper middle school, like middle school,
The
say,
age
because
9 years old?
yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Even more. So like that will be quatrième, troisième in France. Also because according to the French syllabus is mainly like yeah from cinquième. So basically what we call cycle 3 in France. So it's cinquième, quatrième, troisième, 9 ans, 10 ans. Yeah, maybe around like 11 to 15 years old.
Okay. Right.
But saying that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, mainly that, but like high school definitely, and like uni level, they will be quite suitable, and we see more and more the uh, resources we develop at DSC, but all the partners as well are used more and more in like a high school in France as well, in sorry, university level in France as well, and under that. I'm guessing that I mean we would need some adaptation. Yeah.
Okay. I'm kind of thinking perhaps we need to have a meeting, you and me,
Yes.
Becky, at some point because we now have two, but hopefully eventually four
Hmm.
of our Did You Know articles aimed at ages 9 to 11, possibly even 7 to 11 at a stretch. But some of them, depending on how you read them and how independent the children are to read them, but I think could feed into what we call key stage 3, which is 11 to 13. Please butt in, Becky, if I'm saying anything silly. So yeah, it might be that some of the things that we're writing could be part of what a teacher might
Yeah.
use with
Mm-mm.
your stuff there.
I think definitely we need to have a chat on that. But what I had in mind is to link the two or like the four you're gonna produce hopefully with our resources in terms of like to go further or so that could be good at some point to discuss because we can see often what we do because we're going to use the same kind of a layout as the previous handbooks we developed just for coherence and so on but usually we have like in any class activity, we've got like some, yeah, if you want to go further, if you want to develop more, blah, blah, blah. Here is an example of an activity you can use with link with, you know, a QR code or whatever
Mhm.
for teachers to go on other websites and pages. Also, at the end of the handbook, we're going to have like a page with like references, bibliography, and so on. So there is definitely ways of including those, and also like other type of activity developed by the XAIDA. I'm thinking of climate risk developed by Davide, or yeah. So definitely, and we've yeah, I'm gonna reach out with you, I guess, when I'm gonna start working hard into back and forth with the graphic designer.
Of course, yes. Okay.
So yeah,
Thank you.
no worries.
Could you tell us a bit
Well,
more about the board game? Sorry, I was
yes.
waiting for someone else to butt in. I've got lots of
Thank you. Yeah, no,
questions.
no. Oh, yeah, you've got lots of questions. That's good. About the board game. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, basically it's a uh, what I found interesting in that. So basically, it's a well, I can say that. Yeah, role play game. Basically, it's I like so basically you have a group of students, like 5 to 6, I think, and they all pick a role play card, like a sheet, and they have some information in there. And basically, as a facilitator, you just describe what's happened, and so the community has to respond to a extreme that just happened, how you rebuild and how you protect your
Is this
region. Yeah.
based on the interactive game that I can't remember his name, but at the first uh, the, um, the conference we had at
Yeah.
Sorbonne? I think you
No.
weren't there that day, but
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
demonstrate an interactive version of it in a classroom,
I don't know. This one is like
and
this
everyone
one
had a
was developed
role.
at Amsterdam University by a teacher there, but she was not at
Okay,
Sorbonne, so I'm not
all
sure
right,
that's
okay,
the same one. No, so she came to Toulouse and she did that work with us. Yeah, showing that to teachers. Um, and it's based on the case study, like a event that existed, and she based that on a sociology study on how the community responded to the event. I think it was not in Brazil, it was in Mozambique or something like that.
okay,
And yeah, so you've got like tokens based on and you've got like money, and so you can buy crops that is resistant to drought, for instance, or you can buy cheap crop that is less resistant, but then you got more money to build maybe like hospitals. So it's all about like yeah, strategies based on money actually, and so like making choices, and yeah.
okay,
So yeah, I think it's interesting. We will see how through the tests it can be suitable for middle school students, but it can be a bit like yeah for older students as well, definitely. Well, if you have other questions, you can definitely. But we're gonna have another session later on if you want. Yeah.
Well, we still have some time. So if you want to ask other question or anyone else, otherwise we will wrap up. But please feel free to ask anything. Okay, I think it's the end. Thank you very much, Simon.
No worries, my pleasure.
And see you soon. Thank you,
Yes.
everyone.